It's time to turn your life-challenging moments into life-changing messages. Welcome to the Power Lift Stories podcast, where we are interviewing women whose stories will leave you lifted up, fired up, and fueled up with hope, courage, and inspiration. We want to thank our sponsor, Powerful Journey, who helps women tell their stories, write their books, and building a profitable brand around both. Join the masterclass or the Speakers Academy at phyllisjenkins.com. That is PHYLLISJENKINS.com. Now here's your host, Phyllis Jenkins.
Hello, everyone. This is Phyllis Jenkins with the Power of Stories podcast, and I am excited to bring another interview today with a beautiful woman, Daphne Jackson Hornbuckle. Welcome, Daphne.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are so welcome. And if you've been listening to us in the month of October, you know that our interviews are with women who have become champions of breast cancer. And in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we are bringing these champions to you with their stories that are changing lives, that are impacting lives. And we have another great story for you today. Let me introduce Daphne to you. Daphne is a two-time breast cancer survivor and an active volunteer within the Dallas community. She uses her cancer journey to support the emotional needs of African American women and other women of color who have been diagnosed with breast cancer. As a result, she has received numerous awards for her work in the community. Mrs. Hornbuckle was also inducted into the third and fourth editions of Who's Who in Black Dallas for her leadership role in the Dallas community. Hats off to you, my sister. This New York native volunteered with Sisters Breast Cancer Survivors Network and the Adolpha University New York State Breast Cancer Hotline. Mrs. Hornbuckle was also featured in a Lifetime breast cancer commercial, and her speaking engagements include various companies and organizations. She is a former member of the Celebrating Life Foundation, located right here in the Dallas, Texas area, where she facilitated the breast cancer support group for African American women who have been recently diagnosed or was a survivor of breast cancer. Daphne currently serves on the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and Hofstra University's, located in New York, her hometown, Women in Leadership Advisory Board. You are a busy sister.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
She is a member of the National Association of Parliamentarians, Women in Cable and Telecommunications, and the Dallas Society of Women Engineers, where she volunteers and encourages young women to pursue a career in the STEM fields. Daphne earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science from Hofstra University. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
And she again resides in the Dallas, Texas area with her husband, Jesse Hornbuckle III. Mrs. Hornbuckle is a 20-year member of Iota Phi Lambda Sorority Incorporated, Phi Chapter, a national business and professional women's organization. Outside of all of this that she does, her passion for volunteering and mentoring, she loves to travel abroad. We welcome you, Daphne. Wow, you
Thank you
are
again.
you are such a busy lady.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask you before you begin to share your story, if you were to give your story a title,
Mm-hmm.
what title be, Daphne?
It would have to be My Will to Live. And let me tell you why.
Yes.
The first day that I learned that I had breast cancer, it was a shock, for one, right? I was 27. And for me, the word cancer and me did not belong in the same sentence at all. But when I found out that I had cancer, I was at work and I had to take a car service from Manhattan all the way back to Long Island where I lived. And in that process, I decided that, okay, I know what I'm going to die from. I'm about to die. I'm going to make a will. And I listed all of my family and friends and everybody. And then I realized I'm 27. I don't have anything to leave anybody. So with that shock and disbelief, I actually started going from one opinion to another opinion and to a fourth opinion. And that opinion said, everybody said the same thing. You have cancer, you have breast cancer. And at that point, I said, I have got to meet this head on. I'm not ready to give up. I'm not ready to give in. And that began my will to live. So that's where my will to live comes from.
I love that. And I am happy that you said that you were 27, because we know that 27 is an early age to be diagnosed with such a disease. And so I want you to speak to those 27-year-olds, those 20-some-year-olds that think that this is as a disease that cannot touch them. So as you are sharing your story, let's talk to those 20-some-year-olds.
Sure. You know, and I found the lump basically while I was showering and didn't think anything of it. But I said, you know what, let me just go to the doctor. Let me go get it checked out. Let me see what's going on. The doctors were surprised as well because they said, maybe you bruised yourself, maybe you bumped into something that caused this lump. Anyway, they took it seriously enough to say, you know what, let's go in, let's do a biopsy and let's figure out what's going on. That biopsy then in turn came back and said, they told me then it was cancerous. For me, I didn't understand anything about cancer or anything like that. So I was in Barnes and Nobles every day in the oncology section trying to figure out what was cancer and what was breast cancer in particular. I heard all of these different terms and really did not know what I was faced with. Long story short, I actually ended up having a lumpectomy followed with 6 months of chemotherapy, followed by 6 weeks of radiation. And I realized once I got through that my purpose in life was really to help women who had been diagnosed with cancer. And so I started volunteering with different organizations, a few of them you already mentioned. But once I hit that 5-year mark, I actually celebrated. I was like, okay, you hit that 5-year mark and they tell you that, okay, you are now cancer free. I went ahead and I purchased a home in New York. Life continued. I thought it was beautiful. I found love. I got married. I moved to Texas. Life was pretty good. So with that being said, now I'm in Texas and I'm doing the same thing that I was doing in New York. I was volunteering, helping women who were, following in the same path that I was in and helping them with their diagnosis and just holding their hand. So I wound up volunteering with Celebrating Life Foundation here in Dallas, Texas, where Sylvia Donovan Hines is the executive director and founder. And I established the Victorious Ones, which is a breast cancer support group that at that time was where I was leading this group and everything. And it was a joy to be able to be there for other women.
Mm.
But now here we go, and we continue on, and I'm moving forward with life, and everything is grand. 12 years after my first diagnosis, I find another lump. And I'm like, no, that we can't be going through this again. And I'm up here and I'm leading this group, but now I'm leading this group and going through this journey yet again. So I was diagnosed a second time in the same breast, and I just, again, shocked and everything. But I knew, again, I had to face it. And so I ended up having a mastectomy and reconstruction, followed by, again, chemotherapy. And, the journey was just so frightening. The whole thing was just so frightening all the way around. But, and I'm like, why am I going through this? I had no idea. But I still believe that my journey, my purpose was to help other women. And I felt like the best way I could help them is having walked that journey myself. So I was diagnosed, I wound up going through it, and today I'm cancer free.
Well, praise God for that. And I applaud you for continuing to fight, to educate
Yes.
other women. I think that is so very important that we do that through our experiences, and you're indeed doing that.
Right.
Through our experiences, God reveals himself in mighty ways. And so through the battle that you've had twice now with breast cancer, how has God shown himself mighty?
To be honest, with my first diagnosis, I really, really felt alone. I felt like God had forgotten about me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this thing called cancer, I had to figure it out by myself. But in all honesty, I have to say that I did have my family and friends praying for me, but I didn't feel God close to me during that first diagnosis. Then fast forward 12 years later, my walk and my faith with God was much stronger at that point. And it was easier for me to lean on him and easier for me to pray to him about every situation, including the second diagnosis. So with the second diagnosis, even though another ordeal, God showed me and revealed to me that he was with me all the way. And to give you a few examples of that, when I was leading the support group, I didn't tell them that I was that I was diagnosed with cancer again for the second time. But I sent them an email and I said, hey, someone in the group needs a doctor. Who do you recommend? Because remember, I was new to Texas. So I did not know of a breast surgeon at that time. And one name surfaced to the top. And I said, this is where I'm meant to be. And as a result, I called the doctor. The doctor's office actually told me that the doctor was not seeing any new patients at that time. And I felt like, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. So I said, no, I have got to come in. Can you please talk to the doctor? And the receptionist, she talked to the doctor, and the doctor said, you know what, come on in. Let's see what's going on. And I went, and she saw me. My husband was there with me and everything. And she told me that, you know what, let's go ahead and do a biopsy. But let me kind of back up a little bit and talk to you about the doctor. When I met with the doctor, she basically said, she told me what her gut was. And that kind of registered for me. But she said, my gut tells me it's cancer, but let's just go ahead and do a biopsy. And I said to her, I need you to go ahead and take it out. And basically the reason I told her that is because I had been playing with it for a few months because I didn't want to believe that it was cancer yet again. And so she said, I just met you and you want me to operate on you? And I'm like, yes, I want you to operate on you. Please go ahead, take it out. I need you to take it out. I'm trusting you to do this. And so she said, well, you know what that means. And I said, yes, I do know what that means. If you take it out and it is cancerous, that means I have to follow up with a mastectomy. And that's what it turned out to be. When she told me that it was cancerous, she came to my bedside with tears in her eyes and she said, it is cancer and it is a very aggressive cancer. And when she said that, I was still under anesthesia at that point. I just kind of felt right back out and I just went right back to sleep. So following up with an appointment, she said, well, now we want to look at doing reconstruction at the same time of doing the mastectomy. And I'm saying to myself, I have gotten yet to find another doctor. Well, she said, no, I have a surgeon who will do that part of the surgery. She actually contacted the chief of plastic surgery from Presbyterian Hospital. And I'm over here at Medical City, Dallas. And I'm saying, you're going to get the chief of plastic surgery to do my surgery? And I said, okay, that's God lining this up. It can only be him, right?
Yes.
So now I'm still nervous because even though I've gone through a lumpectomy, now I'm faced with reconstruction and a mastectomy and all of that. Well, I met with the doctor and he said, I can tell that you're nervous. So what I'll do is I'll put you in touch with, a few of my patients who've gone through the same type of surgery. And I met this wonderful woman. She's an angel. And I call her my twin to this day. And she said, I will meet you at the doctor's office. We met at the doctor's office and she was so gracious. And she said, it's going to be okay. She eased my fears. And she said, I can even show you, the results of my surgery. And she opened her blouse and she showed me her breasts. And I was amazed at what this doctor had done for her. She eased my fears so much that I said, okay, I can go forward. I can move forward with this. We can do this. And as a result of that, I had a 7-hour surgery. The surgery consisted of 2 hours of a mastectomy and 5 hours of the reconstruction. And the reason for that was because the doctor took the tissue from my stomach, channeled it up and to recreate the breast. And so he channeled it up through my chest and he reattached all of the blood vessels and all of that. And he told me, he said, because you were cut in the stomach area, you're going to have a lot of pain. You're going to be doubled over. You're not going to be able to sit up. And so, it's going to take you about, it's going to take you 3 days to sit up and probably a week to start walking. And I said, okay, but God is so amazing.
Yes.
And God is so, so amazing. And the amazing thing about God was after surgery, he came in and checked on me. I was connected to a pain pump. And he said, don't forget, you have this pain pump. I said, okay, when I need it, I'll use it. I never used it.
Wow.
The very next day, I was sitting up in the bed. The nurse came in and she said, didn't you just come in yesterday? I said, yeah. She said, and you're sitting up already? I said, yeah. And so I was sitting up. Now they said it would take, about a week for me to start walking. And it was 3 days exactly that I got out of bed with my pain pump and all. And I started walking in halls in the hospital. And I started greeting other people in their rooms and all of that. But it was God who said, get up. You can walk. And I got up and I was able to walk. So God revealed himself in so many different ways to me during the second time. Everything just kind of really lined up for me. And the last point I'll point out to you is I had recently started a new job. That new job meant that I didn't have time to take off. The doctor already said with this surgery, you're going to need 6 weeks to take off. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I just got the job. I'm going to lose my job. And there was another woman, another angel at the job, the office manager. She said, I'm going to help you. And I said, okay. I did not know what she was going to do, but I had no choice but to trust her. She sent an email to everybody in the organization and said, hey, if you are willing to give up 1 or 2 days of your vacation time because Daphne needs your time, let me know. And I didn't know she was going to do that, but when she did that, she came back to me and said, you now have exactly 6 weeks to take off. And I was like, I mean, I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it.
Yes.
Every other day that my office, they dropped off food for me to make sure my husband and I ate. I didn't have to worry about cooking. I didn't have to worry about doing anything. They were there for me. So I had many, many people in my life that directed my footsteps and just guided me through this whole process. And it was, to me, it was only God who directed them to direct me.
I love that. And he certainly showed himself mighty in so many ways.
So many ways.
Just that's the God we serve. And
absolutely.
I love how you pointed out that you had repositioned yourself and was in a better relationship with God.
Yes.
During the second go round.
Yes.
And you were able to really step out in faith and just move forward. Yes. With what was before you. And mm-hmm. such a magnificent way you did that. And mm-hmm. We just praise God for what he has done and for what he's continuing to do for you. Absolutely. And through you, because you are being such a strong voice for other women that are needing to hear this, that are needing the strength and the encouragement and the hope. There's nothing but your story is lined with all of those. Mm-hmm. And so we just thank God for what he has done through you. And for the ladies that are listening, what God has done for Daphne, please know that he can and will do it for you as well. Mm-hmm. And I implore you to trust him. Mm-hmm. Trust him as Daphne did. And then look for those angels that he will send in your life. Look for those messages that he will speak to you through other people.
Right.
And so magnificent. Daphne, I want to end our interview by having you to imagine that you just stood on a stage, and the stage was in front of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women. As far as you could see, there was just a sea of women in front of you. And you shared the story, the very story that you just shared with our listeners. Mm-hmm. And the women stood and they gave a grand applause. Mm-hmm. They have now turned and began to walk away. The stage curtains have closed, and Daphne turns to walk to her vehicle. Tell me 3 PowerPoints that you hope that every woman walked away with.
I think the first one I would have to say would be to take time for self-care. Take time to get to know your own body, get to know the ins and outs. So, we as women and in our families, we tend to put our husbands and children first, right? And we're exhausted, we're tired, we're worn out. But we have got to take time to really focus in on our own mental and physical wellness, right? And take time to slow down and enjoy life.
Yes.
That would be the first thing that I would say. Release some of the stress. The second thing would probably be your own advocate for your own health. I was diagnosed twice before the age of 40, and 40 is the recommended age for getting a mammogram, your first mammogram. The first time I was diagnosed at 27. 12 years after that, I was diagnosed at 39. And so with that being said, I would have to say, be your own advocate. And a good example that I can give of that was when the second time I felt the lump. I had a new primary care in Dallas, Texas, and I told her about my breast cancer history. I told her then later on, I said I found a lump, and she felt the lump. She examined me, felt the lump, and she told me it was probably inflammation. And I really, really, really wanted to believe that so bad, because I did not want to have to go through this journey again. But month after month, I was going back to her, and she finally said, "Why are you back in my office?" And I said, "This lump, it hasn't gone away, and I need you, to see what's going on with it." And I kid you not, when she told me, she said, "You never told me you had a lump." I was shocked. I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "I don't have it anywhere in my notes that you told me you had a lump." And I literally ran out of her office. I ran down the hall. I called my husband and I said, "Get me on the next flight to New York. I know it's been 12 years, but I have got to go to a doctor that I can trust at this point."
Mm-hmm.
And I went back to New York, and the doctor says, "You know what? I'm feeling this lump." And she said, "Why are you playing with it? Whatever it is, get it out. And you can't keep running back and forth to New York to get this done." So I said, "Okay." So I go back to Texas, and that's when I sent the email to the group to say, "Hey, who do you know? Who's the doctor?" I knew I was at the right doctor's office when she said she felt the lump, and she said, "Well, let's see what it is." I said, "No, what are you telling me?" She said, "Well, my gut tells me that it may be cancer." And when she said my gut, I said, that's when I knew I was in the right office. So I would say, be your own advocate. And even when that doctor said, "Let's do a biopsy," I insisted that she remove the lump, because I was like, whatever it is, it doesn't belong in me. So let's go ahead and take it out. The third thing I would say is, I know that this is a frightening journey. It is so frightening for many of us. But whatever you do it afraid. Don't hold back. Don't say, "Well, no, I'll wait and see what happens." Do it afraid. And that simply means to keep moving although you're afraid. Keep stepping although you're afraid. Early detection is the key to survival for many of us. If I had waited until 40, I don't think I would be here today. So early detection is really key in the survival of it. Get your mammograms, do your own self-exam, but make sure you're doing something to take care of your own wellness. And don't just simply rely on the doctors. So I think those would be my 3 points that I would want to get across to everyone who's listening, to your audience, ladies and men, because men can get it too. So that would be my 3 points that I would love to get across to everyone.
3 powerful points. And before I allow you to give your contact information, I just want to point out 2 things that we had spoken of earlier. One was there wasn't any family history of breast cancer in your family, correct?
Correct.
And then the second is the second lump was in the center
Yes.
of your chest. It wasn't in the breast area.
Correct.
And so that's important for us to know, that if we feel a lump, we know that it shouldn't be there.
Correct.
No matter where it is. So question that, and as you said, keep moving forward. Keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Don't
great.
get stuck in that place where you decide not to do anything, because that can be a dangerous place to be in. Mm-hmm. So we want to keep moving forward.
Well, Daphne, your story is an amazing story that will definitely become a resource in another woman's toolkit of survival. And if you would, please share your contact information if there's a woman that's listening that wants to talk with you further, get some resources from you.
Yes.
Would you share that, please?
Sure. The best way to contact me is through my email. My email is djhornbuckle73@gmail.com.
Thank you. And we will have that email in our show notes. And there were a couple of resources that Daphne did mention. CelebratingLife.org is one, and the Sisters Network was it net? .net? .org as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we will have those in our show notes. Daphne, thank you again for sharing your powerful, powerful story. It, I'm sure, will change many, many lives and make a great impact on those women who have listened in today. And for our listeners, I just want to say, if you know of a woman that needs to hear what Daphne shared today, please don't wait. Don't sit on it. Send this to her right away, because it could be a matter of life and death. And we want to see more and more champions of this disease. Daphne, thank you again. To our listeners, join us over at phyllisjenkins.com to learn more about the Powerful Journey organization, our masterclass where you can become a published author, our Speakers Academy where we help you to tell your story, and we give you a platform at our women conferences to stand and share your stories as well. Thank you again for listening. Everyone have a powerful, powerful day.
Thank you for joining us today. If you are interested in being on the show, go to phyllisjenkins.com. You can also sign up for the Powerful Journey Masterclass or the Speakers Academy at phyllisjenkins.com.